I'm really upset with my wife after what she's done, but every one of our friends and family thinks she is right to do what she did. So I'm posting here to get an unbiased perspective. I've been married to my current wife for 3 years. We dated for 2 years before getting married. Before meeting my current wife, I had been married to my high school sweetheart for well over a decade. My late wife passed away very young from breast cancer. It was an extremely traumatic experience for me, and I didn't start dating again for several years after the fact. I never had any real relationships before her, parents were both physically abusive, siblings absent, so it was especially hard on me. I've always had a memento from my previous marriage. It was a greenstone or Penamatoki pendant. She gave it to me for our first wedding anniversary. Before meeting my current wife I would wear it almost every day and night. When I met my current wife she wasn't comfortable with me wearing it since it was from my late wife. So I started wearing it less often but made it clear to her it's an extremely important item to me. For a time she accepted that until recently. Over the past few months whenever we had a minor disagreement she'd bring up my pendant and then turn it into a shouting match demanding I get rid of it. I can understand why she might feel uncomfortable with me having it, but I had stopped wearing it at this point, it lays in my drawer. Why can't she accept it's very important to me? Long story short, when I was at work last week she grabbed the pendant and threw it in a nearby river. When I found out I broke down because it was literally the last thing I had to remember my late wife. I don't know. Maybe I am not respecting her feelings and holding on to the past. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. We all have a past, and your late wife played an important part in yours. And you only had a pendant in your drawer to remember her, you even stopped wearing that pendant because it bothered your current wife. And while I get that she might feel uncomfortable, she massively overstepped here. She screwed up big time and definitely is the idiot in this situation. But maybe it would be worth asking her why she feels so threatened by your late wife that she goes to such lengths. That is, if you can forgive her. Not the idiot. Your wife seems to be jealous of a dead person. Your ex-wife meant a lot to you and, since she was a significant part of your life, you have the right to keep something of hers, especially with the way it ended. To me, this raises a red flag. If she is willing to use your ex-wife as a leverage tool in an argument over something that happens multiple years after her, she seems a bit manipulative to me. Marriage requires trust and compromise. If your wife is going to not value what you value and use it against you when she doesn't get her way. Not the idiot. My wife's father died at a young age when my wife was very young. My mother-in-law remarried after 5 years, and her new husband would never even think about telling her, not to mention her late husband. His picture's still up in their house. He was mentioned at our wedding. All this to say that your current wife is being heartless and cruel. The fact that you can never even bring up your late wife to your current wife is a huge red flag. She at least owes you a sincere apology, but to me it sounds like the problems run a lot deeper than an apology can fix. My husband and I generally have a loving, happy relationship. We are compatible and rarely argue. My mother and I have a normal relationship, some minor issues, but nothing serious. My daughter, 26, got out of a terrible long-term relationship and moved back home with us about a year ago. She has been diagnosed with clinical depression. When she moved in, she struggled with even getting out of bed or showering. Since then, she has done a 180. She got a new full-time job. She also is back in school full-time because a degree will, hopefully, help her move up in her company. She has also been going to therapy once a week. In my opinion, she is doing fantastic and I am incredibly proud of her. My husband knows all of this. The issue is that she can be a bit of a slob. She wasn't like this before. I think she got into the habit of it at some point when she became depressed. This really annoys my husband, but honestly, she has so much on her plate that I, admittedly, cut her some slack. My mother came to visit yesterday, and somehow she and my husband got on the topic of my daughter's messiness in front of my daughter. My husband was venting about this, and my mother was agreeing with him. He brought up her cat, and how I am the one who has been cleaning the cat's litter box. They both started berating my daughter, saying she was too old for that, and asking her why she was keeping the cat if she can't take care of it. My mother went outside to smoke a cigarette and my daughter, who was now crying, told her dad that he hurt her feelings. My husband did not apologize. I went over to my daughter to console her, because at this point she was sobbing. She kept quietly repeating to me, "I'm a piece of crap. Everyone thinks I'm garbage." I'm telling her that is not true when my mother comes in. And the pair of them keep going on about it. This is when I lost my temper. I yelled at both of them. I told them to either be respectful toward my daughter or back off and that they could have dinner by themselves. I then took my daughter to get some food and calmed down. I have never spoken to either of them like this. Neither of them have spoken to me since yesterday, and I haven't put forth the effort to speak to them either. I do feel bad for losing my temper, but I am also scared for my daughter's mental health, and I do not want her to go backwards because dad and my mother make her feel bad about herself. Not the idiot. You are doing what you think is best for your daughter, and the way she reacted to it makes it seem like she could fall right back into that depression, and that's not good. Constructive criticism is one thing, but them basically berating her is way out of line. I'd say cool off and maybe apologize for the way you went off, but explain to them why you are doing what you're doing for your daughter and come up with a plan to help her out of this messy phase she's currently in. Not the idiot. The hardest part of depression to break out of for me, like your daughter, is the being messy part. My room is a disaster. I've been cleaning up slowly, and the area that I claim is mine downstairs is also a freaking mess. I'm on antidepressants, seeing a therapist, got a new job, and I'm getting a puppy in a month or so. But I'm still having trouble with being a slob. It's a very hard habit to break. It is something she should bring up with her therapist, but your husband and mom need to be way more caring and gentle with her about it. Not the idiot. As someone with mental illnesses, this made my gut churn. Just reading what was happening made me feel so sorry for your daughter. I'm 22 and admittedly I fall into these episodes where I don't want to eat or wash. This is just an example of what a parent should be like, understanding. Thank you for being so understanding and considerate to your daughter. She might be hurting right now from what your husband and mom said, but she will never forget the way you stood up for her. I send my well wishes to you both. So, I have a pretty tight group of friends that have all been together or since elementary school. All early 30s now. Lately, with people getting married and our careers, we haven't had much time to spend together. So one of my friends suggested a long overdue guys' night. Just pizza and beers and catching up at a buddy's place. I said that I would order and pay for the pizza from our usual spot. So the day of guys' night, I get a text from the host's wife, we'll call her Kim, asking me to pick up some pizza on the other end of the city. At first, I was confused, and then I found out that she basically just cancelled her plans with her girlfriends to interject herself into our guys' night. I told her that the place she wants to pick up from is on the other end of the city, plus we already had a place to order from. Kim had wanted to order a bunch of these super expensive tiny thin crust hipster pizzas. I tell Kim that we're a bunch of dudes that just want some regular filling pepperoni pizza to eat while we have a few drinks. The host texts me after to just say, yeah, go ahead and just get regular, it's way easier. So we go ahead and order the regular stuff. While I'm driving to his place, I get a message from Kim that reads something like the following. I think you're being really selfish here. I wanted to share something with you guys that I found amazing and have a new experience with you, but you decided that you just have to make this all about yourself. You know that host isn't going to say no to anyone, and you're just being mean to get your way. I told Kim, just cancel the order, get whatever you want. I'm out and turned around and drove back home. To clarify, I wasn't upset about not getting my choice of food, but at the fact that Kim not only invited herself to what she knew was a guys' night and then started making demands about food for us and telling me to pick up the food that she wants when she was also off of work at this time. Kim is a bit of a spoiled princess that's used to getting everything she wants. So I decided not to go, because if she was already getting this upset over something like pizza, then I don't want to spend one of my nights off around her. None of the guys were upset, they wanted me to come, but understood why I bailed. One last thing is we all hang out pretty regularly as a group anyways. So Kim sees us all once every week or so anyways. It's not that the guys never get to see each other, but we just haven't had a guys only night in nearly a year. Am I the idiot for not just going along with this to have a peaceful evening? Not the idiot. As a woman, I genuinely don't understand women like this. When I was married, I would actively encourage my husband to have his boy time because I thought it was important. I'm definitely not canceling my plans with my friends to crash my partner's time with their friends. I totally get why you dropped out, and it's good that no one gave you any crap for it. But what happens the next time you all arrange a guys' night? Obviously, the answer here is a big no girls allowed in here sign. Not the idiot. I bet Kim's husband is pretty embarrassed but doesn't want to rock the boat in his marriage. And I get that. However, he maybe should have suggested going out when he realized his wife planned on being at home. If my husband was having a boys' night at our house, I don't think I'd actively hide from the group in my own home, but I definitely wouldn't jump in and try to take over. Next time, push to have the boys' night at a bar or pizza place. And if at point Kim still tries to push her way in, well then Kim's husband has got problems. Not the idiot. It was supposed to be guys' night. Not only did your buddy's wife insert herself and try to change the plans and make you adapt to them, it's kinda creepy that she actually cancelled her own plans to do so. I don't get why some women are so insecure that they can't even let their significant other have friends or even have any experiences without them. That's super unhealthy and controlling and generally not cool. Guys' night is guys' night. End of story. Your friend should have made this clear to his wife. My son was supposed to have just wrapped up his junior year in university. It turns out, he has been failing and dropping lots of classes. He always told my wife and I that his grades are fine and that his grade point average is okay. The only access we had to his school account was to make tuition payments. We even paid for a more expensive school because he really wanted to go there. His sister also went to this school and had a great experience, so we were okay with it. He came home this summer and told us the truth. He had been on academic alert since his first semester for failing a class. However, his grade point average was still okay because his other classes pulled up the F. Over time, he started failing and dropping more classes, and his grade point average went down more and more until he hit probation. He was suspended for failing to bring his grade point average above a 2.0. Apparently, he appealed the decision, and the dean told him he could have one more chance instead of taking an involuntary year off, but he would be dismissed from the school if he failed any more classes. Well, lo and behold, he failed another class and was kicked out. He then had no choice but to come clean to us. We have spent around $28,000 a year, $18,000 tuition plus $10,000 dorm and food, not including the spending money we gave him every month. We spent $84,000 for him to only come out of that school with 34 credits. We did this because both of us graduated college with huge student loan debts and we wanted him to enter his career with no debt. He applied to another school as soon as he found out he was suspended and got accepted. However, I told him I would not be paying any more tuition and that he would need to take out federal loans and that we would not be co-signing on any private loans. I eventually relented and came up with an idea. I said he could earn my trust back by going to community college for a semester or two, which we would pay for. If he passed all of his classes, then we could pay for his other university on a semester-by-semester basis, and we would need to see his grades online every term. I also said he would need to go see someone at school to figure out what bad habits or learning issues led him to this point and to help him avoid it from here on out. If he felt like he needed any kind of therapy, we would cover that too. Well, my son absolutely hates the idea of going to community college. My wife thinks I'm an idiot for refusing to just give him a second chance without all of this community college nonsense. I also mentioned to my wife that college isn't for everyone, and if this doesn't work out, maybe he needs to look into a trade. She wouldn't hear that either. Am I the idiot for not handing out second chances without shackles? I feel like just going to another university won't just magically fix the issues that landed him in this mess, to begin with. Not the idiot. It's totally reasonable to not want to pay tens of thousands of dollars when you can't trust it's being put to good use. And he still has the options to take out loans if he wants to go to his school of choice now. A few semesters of community college would probably be great for him. To be honest, he sounds a bit spoiled, and it would be good for him to be in school with a bunch of people who are working their backs off at school while also working full-time, not just going to school with their parents' money and screwing around. Not the idiot in the slightest. To be honest, your wife may be part of the problem. She is basically coddling him after his failures. By my estimates, he's 21 or 22 years old. It may be time for him to grow up and take on some responsibilities. A job to pay for his own community college would be a start. $84,000 is not a small amount of money. The combination of your son and college has proven to be a poor investment. Your plan to basically have him prove himself to be a good investment is more than generous. Not the idiot. You're extremely generous, covering full tuition along with room and board. He should have had the time to do his homework. The fact you have a plan in place where you are still paying for his education to prove he can improve his study skills is extremely generous. I don't think people should be punished, but it sounds like your son does not feel consequences as much because it's not his money. If he does go back to university, perhaps he should be responsible for X amount of costs. Regardless, this is a tough lesson to learn, and I hope he can grow from this. So, my husband and I both have really big families. I originally wanted a child-free wedding, but hubby thought there would be too many hurt feelings over it, especially since I did still want my little sister there as a flower girl. My cousin, Anne, has a 5-year-old son, let's call him Ben, who has autism. I love Ben to death, he's a sweetheart, but he has a tendency to act out and throw long tantrums, so I was a little nervous about having him there. I tried to have a heart-to-heart about this with Anne as delicately as I could, but she immediately got offended and told me she knows how to control her son. So it's my wedding day. I wasn't there to hear it because I hadn't walked down the aisle yet, but our officiant makes an announcement about our unplugged ceremony preference. A pretty common practice. My dad walks me down the aisle and I'm seriously overjoyed. And then I hear it. Ben has an iPad that Anne gives him to keep him occupied. He can sit in front of it for hours watching YouTube videos about trucks. She gives it to him all the time at restaurants and stores to keep him occupied. And she also gave it to him on my freaking wedding day. Ben is on his iPad, watching his truck song videos at a more than audible volume, and Anne is just letting him. It totally throws me off, and I think my poor officiant saw the complete panic on my face because he stopped and did another quick reminder about our unplugged preference. Anne didn't get the hint. My husband said it was fine and told him to keep going because he doesn't like making a scene, but seriously, all I can hear is this freaking truck song and the quiet chaos going on around it. At this point, people start telling Ben to shut it off, and Anne is telling them to leave him alone. My stepbrother told her to take him out, which just made Anne cry, so then I have to say my vows to the tune of truck tunes and my cousin crying, and the uncomfortable laughter from some of our other guests. I definitely consider my wedding ceremony ruined, which we put a lot of money into, and I'm still livid about it. I didn't speak to Anne at the reception, and later she confronted me about how she couldn't believe I let her and Ben be humiliated like that at the ceremony. What? I went off on her. Totally lost my mind and said a bunch of crap about how she lacks any shred of awareness or common decency, among other not so nice words. My mom thinks I'm overreacting, and that it really wasn't that bad and kind of funny if you think about it, and that the iPad debacle was way better than Ben having a meltdown in the middle of the ceremony without it. She thinks I should apologize to Anne and basically give her a pass because she's the single mother of an autistic kid, but I just don't think it's fair to play the disability card here. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I understand that there are autistic people and kids that can't tolerate things like earbuds, but the cousin was way out of line. She could have skipped the ceremony and gone to the reception. I get that she is a single parent. But that doesn't excuse her allowing her child to disrupt your whole ceremony. Her behavior was beyond rude, and yeah, she kind of did ruin a moment in your life that should have been a solemn and serious rite of passage for you and your husband. Unfortunately, this will like to be what you and others will tend to remember about your wedding most clearly. Not the idiot. I got a brother with autism. When he was younger and attended ceremonies, my parents showed him a visual timer so he could see how long he had to behave for. Then they'd either give him headphones so he could listen to music or a stimulant toy so he could just play with that. If he acted up, even with his coping tools, they immediately took him outside and either waited for the important parts to be done or waited completely until it was done and tried to remind him what behaving looks like at a ceremony.